He died the way every warrior hopes to, on his feet, with a blade in his hand, and blood on the ground beneath him. For men like him, there was only one ending: Valhalla, earned, not given, a reward promised to those who fell in battle without fear. And when the moment finally came, when his body gave in and the world began to fade, he saw them, the ones who had come to take him, not as enemies, not as shadows, but as something older than both, something no warrior had ever turned away from, because no one refused Valhalla until him. And that was the moment everything changed. Before we go any further, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming stories. What makes this moment difficult to understand is not the battle, not the death, but what came after it. Because everything that followed should have been simple. He had done what was expected. He had fought without hesitation, without retreat, without fear. He had lived the life that led to this exact ending. And yet, as he stood at the edge of what should have been his reward, something within him did not move forward. And that's where the story truly begins. He was not reckless, not driven by glory, not the kind of warrior who fought for the stories that would be told after he was gone. He fought because he had to, because in a world where survival depended on strength, there was no other choice. He did not chase death, and he did not welcome it. He understood it, and that understanding made him different. For years, he fought in battles that blurred together, victories that meant little, losses that were quickly forgotten, moments that ended the same way no matter how they began. Men around him chased something beyond survival, something they believed waited for them after death. But he never spoke about it, because somewhere deep within him, there was a question he could not ignore. What if the reward was not what they believed it to be? And that question followed him into his final battle. The battle that ended his life was no different from the others, at least not at first. Cold air, steel against steel, men moving with urgency, because every second could be their last. He fought the way he always had, controlled, precise, no wasted movement, not chasing victory, not chasing death, only moving forward because there was no other direction to go. And then it happened, a strike he could not avoid, a moment he could not escape. The kind of ending he had seen happen to others more times than he could count. He felt it before he understood it. The shift, the stillness, the world pulling away. And then silence. Not emptiness, not darkness. Something else, something waiting. When he opened his eyes, the battlefield was gone, replaced by something far quieter, far more certain. And that's when he saw them, the ones who had come for him. They did not speak. They did not need to. Their presence carried everything he needed to understand. This was the moment every warrior had been promised. This was the path waiting for him from the beginning. And all he had to do was follow. For a long moment, he said nothing. Because this was not confusion, not fear. This was recognition. He understood exactly what this was. And that was the problem. Because for the first time in his life, he was not being forced into a path. He was being given a choice. And then something happened that had never happened before. He didn't step forward. He didn't follow. He didn't hesitate. He said no. And that was the moment everything broke. Not just for him, for everything that had ever come before it. The presence before him did not move. But something within it shifted, as if the world itself had paused to consider what had just happened. No one had ever refused. Not because they couldn't, because they never questioned it. And now that it had been questioned, it could not be undone. And that wasn't the worst part, because something else had noticed. Not with force, not with anger, but with attention. The kind that does not ignore what it does not understand. The space around him changed, not in form, but in meaning. As if everything within it had become aware of something it had never needed to consider before. And then the question came. Not spoken, not heard, but understood completely. Why? For the first time, he had to answer, not to defend himself, not to justify what he had done, but to say what he had always known. He did not fear death. He had accepted that long before this moment ever arrived. But what waited beyond it was something else entirely. A life that never ended. A battle that never stopped. A reward built on the same thing he had already spent his life enduring. And then he said it. Calm, certain, final. A life spent fighting is not a reward. And in that moment, something shifted. Not in him, not in the world, but in the understanding of something that had never been challenged before. Because once certainty is questioned, it does not return the same way again. The consequence did not come as punishment. There was no anger, no retaliation, no attempt to force him forward. Instead, there was a decision. Quiet, inevitable, final. He would not be taken. He would not be placed among those who had followed without question. But he would not return unchanged either. He would remain between what was and what could have been. And that was the true cost. The battle resumed, but it was not the same. The man who should have been gone remained. Others fought, fell, survived. But something within those moments had changed in a way no one could see, only feel. The certainty that had once governed everything no longer held the same weight. There was space now, however small, for hesitation, for possibility, for the idea that what had always been decided might not be as fixed as it once seemed. And he remained within that space, not as a warrior, not as one who had been chosen, but as the one who had refused. Because that moment did not disappear. It stayed. It existed in every battle that followed, in every life that continued, in every decision that was no longer as certain as it once had been. From that day forward, Valhalla remained what it had always been, but it was no longer unquestioned. Because he didn't reject death, he proved something far more dangerous, that even the rewards of the gods could be refused. Was he wrong, or was he the first to see the truth? Tell me what you think in the comments. And if you stayed with us until the end, subscribe for more dark Viking stories, Norse legends, and cinematic storytelling like this, because the next story might change the way you see these myths forever.